Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for being here in this web development masterclass. We have with us Silvia Moore. She's one of our teachers from the part-time session. Welcome here, and thank you very much for organizing this session. Great. So the idea of this masterclass is to give you a showcase on HTML and CSS. Silvia Moore is going to try to reproduce our website, the All Women website. It's going to be very basic, but still, you're going to see how much you can do in 1 hour and a half. That's the time that we're going to have. Great. So I'm going to start with a small presentation and introduction about the tech school, in case you don't know anything about us. Great. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, sorry, can you hear it? Yeah, can you see me? And the screen? Wonderful, thank you. Awesome, thank you. About All Women, so about us. We are a tech academy that we're designed exclusively for women and is designed by women, by leading experts. We have seen that some of our attendees are men. Don't worry, don't be discouraged, please stay with us and spread the word about our tech academy to your fellow friends and women friends, yeah, and family. So what do we offer? We offer courses specialized in data science, in web development, in product management, UX, UI, and UX writing. And today, this session is going to be focused on web development, which is actually one of our newest courses. So one of the things that we're really proud, I'm hearing some mics. If you can mute them, I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. So one of the things that we're really proud about our Tech Academy, it's our flexible learning environment. We offer full and part-time courses, which means that it can very easily adapt to your schedule. We also offer them worldwide. And this is because last March, because of coronavirus and the pandemics, we opened ourselves to the world. And this means that now in our classes, we have women from all over the world, especially from Europe, but we're really excited to have also this diversity of women in our classes as well. Our campus is based in Barcelona, and actually we're really proud to announce that we're gonna have our own campus starting in February. We couldn't be more excited about that. And obviously, what we offer is a positive, inclusive, and safe space in our classes for women. So as you can see, we are a growing community, and our goal is to empower women and to also raise awareness of this big gap there is in tech and this lack of women in these positions and this sector. Also, another of our pillars and of our foundations of our Tech Academy is that we want to impact the present and the futures of technologies through all these new materials, syllabus, and courses that we're designing with our female tech experts. So to give you some rough numbers of who we are, where we are, and what we want to attain, at the moment, we're more than 15K women in our community, and as I'm telling you, it keeps growing every day. Also, we're organizing events constantly. So also check our Meetup, LinkedIn, Instagram. We're constantly publishing different events because we want to give our women content. Also, we're really proud to let you know that with us, they've graduated more than 170 women. And again, these numbers keep growing. And also that we count with more than 100 corporate partners and allies that what they want is to hire more women to bridge this gap of women in tech. Here's just to drop some names of companies that we're currently working with, so you have an idea. Wonderful, so now let's start the masterclass. Silvia, the stage is all yours. And thank you very much again for being here.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for joining. I think I might turn off my camera because my laptop sometimes lags, and Also, sometimes it crashes. It's happened in the past. So I'm gonna switch it off to try and avoid that. And we'll start sharing my screen. Mhm. Okay, you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, like Marta said, today, even though we've called this a web development masterclass, we'll be focusing on HTML and CSS, which is a portion of what you learn when you learn web development. First of all, introduction of myself. I'm a senior software engineer at Typeform currently and co-organizer of a meetup called Ada.js, which is also by women for women. It's when we started, it was focused on JavaScript, but we try to work with other languages as well. And also, as of this year, a teacher at the part-time web development course at All Women. This is the index of the masterclass. I'm gonna start by telling you why is it interesting or why you should learn web development if you've been considering it. Also, then some theory, because even though I want to try to squeeze in as much as we can in 1 hour and a half, but obviously you need to know some basic concepts to begin with. And then we'll start building the website, which is basically I'm going to code and you will be watching, and I will try to replicate the All Women website, probably in a crappy way because it's kind of complex. If you haven't seen it, I can show you right now. It's pretty cool and it's responsive and it's got images and colors, and so I'm sure we cannot do this in 1 hour and a half, but we can try to come close. Also, in the end, I said there's going to be Q&A, but you can ask questions anytime, and Marta will be taking them. So let's begin. So why? Reasons to learn web development. For this one, maybe some of the attendees might be too young. I come from a time when we didn't have smartphones. I come from a time when we didn't even have internet at home. So before it was so omnipresent in our daily lives, like we relied on TV commercials, magazines, and word of mouth to learn about products and to learn about if they were good or bad, to choose whether we wanted to buy a specific product or trust a specific brand. And also for actually, when we talk about buying, for anything that we wanted to buy, be it groceries, clothes, books, anything, we had to do it on site. And that means you had to do it when you had free time to do it, usually on the weekends or after work. And the same goes for any kind of paperwork, that you had to go do it physically, which is, it's still a pain in the ass nowadays. I mean, that's for sure. But it was even worse back then. And it also, another reason for this is home internet connection wasn't as common. We didn't all have internet at home. I remember when I was studying at university, I only had internet at university. And even then, we had it from 9 in the morning till 6 in the afternoon. Quite crazy. And yeah, least of all, we didn't all have a computer, which was a necessity if you wanted to use internet. And times have changed a lot, definitely. This is the age of internet nowadays. For any business, having an online presence nowadays is mandatory in order to be accessible and close to their customers, the current customers and their potential customers. And also for any brand or business that's selling goods, the possibility to sell online is a necessity. Because if they are not there, someone else will have their customers. And also, it's also important for them to be not only have the possibility of selling online, but also having social media presence. Also, this is the age of the rise of non-physical products like online courses, like Udemy or Coursera that you may know, cloud storage, like Dropbox or Google, like storing pictures online also is something that we didn't even think about some years ago. Also, video and music streaming platforms like Spotify, Netflix, Disney Plus. These are things that didn't exist, that would not exist if it wasn't for internet. Also, nowadays, a big chunk of the world's population has access to super fast internet connections and powerful computers in our pockets, our smartphones. And did you know that an average smartphone of a present-day smartphone is 120 million times faster than the computers used by NASA for the Apollo missions? That's crazy. Those computers were $3.5 million each, and they were the size of a car. And finally, thanks to internet, everything is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So no need for on-site buying anymore if you don't want to. You can buy anytime, from anywhere, from our smartphone. And that means, of course, that given all these facts, it's no doubt that there's a huge demand for web developers because everything needs to be on the web nowadays. And if whatever is not on the web, they are already late to the party. And well, actually, if you're subscribed to the All Women newsletter, you might have read this too already in their latest edition. It says employment of web developers and digital designers is projected to grow 8% from 2019 to 2029. And this data comes from a report published by the US Bureau of Labor Statistics last week. And the chart on the right is from a different report, but it has a similar projection. So there's plenty of work for web developers in the coming years. So it's a safe choice for a job. That's what I mean to say. But also, I mean, those are good reasons to learn web development if you want to make a living out of it. But also, you could just want to learn web development because it's good to learn new skills, regardless of your current job. You could apply these web development skills as well. Maybe you want to build a website for your personal business or for your kids to play, like, I don't know, maybe web development games for your kids. Who knows? Also, and this is not my quote. This quote is, I'm not sure who said it, but programming is the new literacy. I've read it online many times. Many people say in the future, whoever doesn't know programming would be like not knowing how to read. Maybe it's too drastic, but I think there's a misconception that programming is super hard, and it's not. I think pretty much everyone can learn to program. A different thing is you may not like it and may not want to make a living out of it, but knowing about it is good. Also, you may want to learn web development for having a side project, profitable or not, like I said before, for learning new skills. And most of all, it's fun. And once you know how to code, even if it's just a little bit, you will find out it's quite addictive because you start doing things, seeing them, and you're like, wow, I did that. And it's so rewarding. So I think that's about it. I hope I convinced you that it's super interesting to learn web development. Now we can start building a website, except we need to learn some theory first, some basic concepts, before I start coding by myself. So what are the tools we're going to learn today? There's a lie in here. I said JavaScript, but we're not going to learn JavaScript. I'm going to tell you why later. We're going to basically use HTML and CSS. We're going to use a text editor and an internet browser, of course, because that's what we need to see an HTML page. Also, that was to say if any of you wanted to follow me and code, but that would be distracting for you. So maybe just look at me coding. As for the text editor, I'll be using VS Code. Probably doesn't mean anything for you, but if it does, it's the best code editor nowadays. And actually, just today or yesterday, the JS State of JS report, which is a study on web development, was published, and it says around 80% of web developers use VS Code. That's quite amazing. Why am I going to use that? Well, first of all, I love it, and then also it has built-in support for Emmet, which is a tool that allows you to be super productive when working on HTML. It does magic. I'm going to show you the kind of magic it does. So before I go any further, I'm going to explain the concept of what's HTML, what's CSS, what's JavaScript. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. A markup language is a system for annotating a document in a way that is syntactically distinguishable from the text, meaning when the document is processed for display by the browser, the markup language is not shown, only the text is shown. So it's designed to be displayed in a web browser, and it tells a browser how this text should be displayed. It provides the layout for it. HTML can be assisted by technologies such as CSS, which is used for styling, and scripting languages such as JavaScript, which is used for interactivity. Web browsers receive HTML documents from a web server or from local storage. Like what I'm going to do today is I'm going to be loading an HTML page from my computer, and they render documents into web pages. Then finally, HTML provides a means to create structured documents by denoting structural semantics for text, such as headings, paragraphs, lists, links, quotes, and other items. These are called HTML elements, and we will learn about them when we start coding. As for CSS, it stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on screen, paper, or in other media. Other media could be, well, screen also means any kind of device screen, like it could be a computer or your smartphone, of course. CSS can control the layout of multiple web pages all at once. It means when you write CSS, you can apply it to any HTML. So what we're going to see, like I'm going to show you when you can define CSS and apply it to different web pages as long as you follow the rules of your CSS. We will see this when we start coding. As for JavaScript, it's a programming language that was created in 1995 in just a week. But of course, back then, they didn't even think about the possibilities that JavaScript had and how powerful it was going to become. In the past decade, it's become the most popular and commonly used programming language for 8 years in a row now. This graphic that I've shared is from 2020 Stack Overflow Developer Survey. And as you can see, it's quite up there. And you may be wondering, why is JavaScript so popular? I'm sure you are curious about JavaScript if you have joined this masterclass today. Well, JavaScript is the language of the web. The web is made of JavaScript. As we've seen, the internet nowadays is more omnipresent than ever, and it will just keep growing. So, of course, there will be more and more JavaScript, and it will be even more popular. Just to back up this is another chart from this year. Actually, it's from, I think I took this last year. You can see on the right side, January 2021. It says JavaScript is used as a client-side programming language by 97.1% of all websites in the world. That's crazy. That's a lot. So pretty much every website has JavaScript, even if it's not doing an intensive use of it, it's using it in one way or another. More reasons. It can be used both for front-end and back-end development, like for programming servers and websites alike. It's easier to learn than most other programming language. Maybe I'm biased because I've learned other languages and JavaScript was the one that was easiest, in my opinion. But like I said, I might be biased. And also, and very important too, it keeps evolving, meaning as opposed to other languages or technologies that maybe or are actually gradually becoming obsolete as time goes by, JavaScript is not going to become obsolete anytime soon because it is so popular, and with every new release of the language, more and more awesome new features are included. So everyone loves it even more every year. So it's a safe bet. I'm sorry though, but like I said, learning JavaScript is out of the scope of today's masterclass. That would be way too much for an hour and a half. We might be using some snippets of code, but nothing fancy, maybe, and maybe not actually. I'm gonna try to stick to HTML and CSS. And this means our website won't be too interactable, but mostly read-only if you're not using JavaScript. But that doesn't mean we cannot create a nice looking website, because with HTML and CSS alone, we can do amazing things, as you will see. And now we're ready, so we can start building website. Okay, so to begin with, like I'm gonna open my code editor, which is VS Code, like I said. I'm going to create a new HTML file. Not there. There. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
You can see VS Code.
We can see the Visual Studio Code.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, that's the code editor. Amazing.
But the letter is very small.
Yeah, I guess.
Thank you.
Is that better? Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Too dark?
It's better, but it's blurry, not clear.
Can make it even bigger. What about now?
Better.
Yeah, perfect. Well, let's see. Let's hope this works. Okay, so I'm going to show you, because this is the skeleton of an HTML document. This is what every HTML document should have. So an HTML document begins with, this tag. This tag, when I say tag, I refer to these elements that are enclosed by less than and greater than symbols. So this is, I would say this is an HTML tag. This is a head tag. This is a meta tag. I'm not sure if you're seeing my mouse or just me talking, but so these things, these in red, these are HTML tags. The first one, which is the thing that defines this is an HTML document, and the second one is the root tag. So as you can see, some of these elements, they end up in a greater than character, and some others, is there anyone? Nope, none of them. Well, the thing is, we say this is an opening tag, and it usually has a matching ending tag. In the end, you can see it's less than /HTML. That means that's the closing tag. So these tags, they are wrappers. They enclose other tags. That's not the case for all of them, as we will see. But always HTML is going to be the root tag after the doc type HTML. And then There's going to be a head tag, a body, and optionally there could be a footer as well below it. So, and that these names are also quite, they make sense, right? I mean, the head is going to be where you write information about the document. The body is where the content is going to be, and the footer, which is also optional, could be where we have the things that are going to be at the very end of the document. So it makes sense to say this is a skeleton. Just think about it: head, body, footer. I'm going to start by creating this structure in my empty file. And because I'm going to use the magic of Emmet, which is I just type an exclamation mark and press tab, and it does this magic for me already. I didn't have to type all of this. Now I'm going to explain what these tags are, but let's go back to the slides. So what's the head? The head is really important. The head is a container for metadata. Metadata, meta means it's, well, like it stands for data about data, right? Metadata typically defines a document's title. It could also hold styles for the document, scripts, in this case would be JavaScript, and other meta information. I can show you in this case, for example, we have this meta char set. In this, you don't have to understand this, but basically it's the character set that the browser, for the browser to know how to interpret this file. Then this another meta name viewport. This is telling the browser that it should adapt the content depending on the device we are seeing this with. So if I was going to see this web page with my laptop, like you will see right now, it's going to adapt to the screen, and the font size will be size that I can read easily. But if I was going to open this with my smartphone, it would adapt so that the font size can also be read okay. Because obviously, as you can see, this screen I'm using is super big. My smartphone is not that big. The smartphone screen is way smaller. This is usually something to just copy paste. Don't really need to understand it. I barely understand it myself. Then the title defines the title of the document, and it's required in HTML documents. I'm going to show you what the title does. So in this case, it just says document by default. I'm going to show you some magic now. So this is the allwomen.tech all women page. I'm gonna go ahead, and you can also do this yourself with any web page in the world and be amazed. You can right click and check on view page source, and this gives you the HTML for the page, which is so much. You can see we're not going to do this in an hour and a half. I mean, there's a lot, but just to see what these meta tags do in real life, you can see the title is the thing that we will see on the browser tab. So it says, "Oh, Women Academy, Shaping the Future of Women in Tech." This is what the title of in the browser says, "Shaping the Future of Women in Tech." So, oh, yeah.
Would you be able to zoom in a little bit?
Ah, right, yes.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Slightly. If you can zoom in a little bit more, if possible. If not, that's also okay. There you go. Amazing.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so where was I? Title, yeah. So title is what you will see on the tab in the browser. So it's really important to have it, because otherwise it would be empty. What else? What else we have? Oh yeah, the fab icon. So this cute little thing icon that looks kind of like an emoji on the left side of the tab, that's called a fab icon. Fab stands for favorite. So it's called a favorite because usually, like in this bar here, these are my favorites. So if I wanted to include these in my favorites, I would drag it, put it there, and yeah, that's the favorite icon. It's a stupid name anyway. But
Silvia,
yeah.
we have a little question from Caris. What did you press to find the HTML information on the website?
Yeah. So I clicked on the right icon. Sorry, I clicked right click on my mouse. And my browser is in Spanish, but it should be something like view page source or something like that.
Yeah, so some people are saying it's inspect. Thank you very much for pitching in. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so that's the thing. But view page source. Is that right? I mean, is that?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. So I'm gonna, since I said I'm gonna copy all women's page, I'm gonna go ahead and copy everything. We'll start by copying the title, and I'll put it there. Also, I will open it right next to this one, which could be a bit messy because it's gonna be duplicated. Bear with me. Okay, so there's nothing. This is my page. This is my HTML page that I'm creating. So you can see it's completely blank except for the title. That's up here. I'm not sure you can read it, but it's there. And it's completely empty. Why? Well, because there's nothing in the body. Oh, there's a comment by Martha. So my streaming quality is really poor, said Martha.
Sure, let's all try turning our cameras off and let's see if it improves. Thank you very much, Marta.
Okay. So I'll go ahead just for you to see that this is the page I'm creating. I'm gonna write classic hello world in the body and refresh my page, and there it is, hello world. This is the text I just wrote. Like I was saying, I was talking about the fab icon, which is included in the head also, using a link tag. Link tag is also used for including CSS files. I'm gonna look for it here and show you where it is. It's link, there are a lot. Link. There, this is it, link rel icon. This is the fab icon. So I'm gonna copy it too, because I wanna add it in my page. I wanna add it to my page. There. And I'm gonna put it in the head, because that's where it belongs. This href, this is the route, this is the path where this picture, because this is a picture, I'm going to show you. This is where this image lives. Of course, if you know about pictures, you may know this format PNG. There are other formats, JPEG, SVG. This could be an image that I have in my computer that's right there in a folder. And it would also load, of course. I'd be using a relative path. I'd be using a path to my folder in my laptop, but it's just easier to grab a thing that's already online. And this is the URL to the image. So this is the image, as you can see. So I've added it. I've saved my file. Now I reload, and my emoji should be there. Sorry, my icon should be there, and there it is. Oops, sorry. What else are meta tags used for? They are used to specify information such as page description, keywords, author of the document, viewport settings, like I showed you before. And what else are meta tags essential for? Well, basically for SEO, for SEO, and for social media sharing. Why? You say, why for social media sharing? What does that have to do with anything? I'm going to show you something else. If I'm going to Twitter now, and I add the link to All Women Tech, you can see Twitter automatically adds this preview with a picture. This here is my title, it's the web title. This is a description, and there's an image. Where's this image coming from? How does Twitter know where to fetch this image from? Well, this is also in the HTML document, and it's, first of all, I'm going to show you the description, which is also a meta tag, should be around here somewhere. There, meta name, description, content, the First Academy of Data Science, UX, UI design, yada, yada. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to add it to my file right there. Meta name, description, oops, content. No need for that. And there's a description. And where does the image come from? Well, it's this one here. It's meta property OG dot, sorry, not dot, column image. And there's, in the content, there's another URL to an image. I'm going to show you. This is the image that Twitter is including in the post. Wow, it's super big. But that's the picture. So, of course, this information that that is automatically added by any social media like Facebook or Twitter, this is awesome, and this is super important. So if you were building a website for yourself, you would want to definitely use a description and an image, and this is what you'd be using for it, these meta tags. I'm going to also copy this one, because we are copying everything, kind of. I'm going to put it there, right below description. I won't be able to show you because there's no way I can now try and share my local page in Twitter, but you have to believe it works. Okay, what's next? Yeah, I was talking about SEO, and you probably wondered what's he talking about. SEO stands for search engine optimization. This is very important for people building websites, and in pretty much every big company nowadays, there's going to be an SEO specialist. SEO is the practice of increasing the quantity and quality of traffic to your website through organic search engine results. And what's organic traffic, you may be wondering? Well, organic is any traffic that you don't have to pay for, because advertisements that usually companies pay for, so that when you search in Google something, your name or your brand will be among the first results, that's paid for. So organic means you didn't have to pay for it. And I'm going to show you an example. Like, this is an example. If you search in Google, let's say iPhone 12 or pretty much anything that you could buy, the first results that you will see, they have this AD, this at label on the side. This means this was paid for, so that it would show up first on Google. Also, the things on the right, these are also paid for. The one below it, the one from apple.com, this is organic traffic. This wasn't paid for. So SEO is good for having your having your website appear or be easily found by Google, because what Google uses for searching the web is these robots that go through every web page in the world, and they go looking for these meta tags, and these meta tags are then used to provide the search results. So it's really important to have good meta tags for your website. Yeah, still speaking of SEO, what's quality of traffic? Well, it means attracting visitors who are genuinely interested in what your website has to offer. Because let's say you have a website, you are a brand selling shoes, and you paid for advertisements on Google, and this is bringing you many visitors, but in the end, these visitors don't end up buying anything in your website. So these are not the kind of visitors that you want to have. You want to have visitors that will buy from your website. So quality traffic means those that came from advertisement and actually bought something or did what you expected them to do in your website. And quantity of traffic simply means the amount of visits, of course. Any questions so far? Because I'm not reading the comments.
No questions so far.
Okay. Now, speaking of HTML elements that we mentioned before, the HTML elements are the building blocks of HTML pages. We've already seen a few of them. Well, the body, the head. HTML elements are delineated by tags, like I said, and they are written using angle brackets, these less than, greater than characters. Tags such as IMG, which stands for image and input, directly introduce content into the page. These are auto-closing tags, let's say. You have to include this slash before you close it. And other tags such as P, which stands for paragraph, or div, surround and provide information about document text, and they may include other tags as sub-elements. So you can nest HTML elements within HTML elements, but not all of them support it. Also, like we saw, browsers do not display the HTML tags. They just display the text within them. So they use the HTML tags to interpret the content of the page and how it must be displayed. What is semantic HTML? Well, it's HTML that introduces meaning to the web page rather than just presentation. It's really important that you use semantic HTML properly in your page to define the different areas of the page, because these HTML tags provide information about the content of those tags that goes beyond just how they look on a page. And this is super important for accessibility. And by this, I mean people that maybe, what's the word? People who can't see, and maybe they have to use a screen reader to navigate the web, because how they read a website. Yeah, thank you. People with disabilities. Thanks. Especially visually impaired. So the web is navigated like following this hierarchy. So it's really important to properly use semantic HTML tags. Some of these tags are H1 to H6. That means H1, H2, H3, 4, 5, 6. These are used for headings. Header and footer that we already saw. Nav is usually used for a navigation bar that could be on the top of your website. Section is to divide the content, like the word says, in sections. Article would be mostly used in a blog post, for example. Main you can use as the root element of your web page after body. Aside, I'm not really sure. I've never used it. Code, it may be used to add a snippet of code. Could be maybe JavaScript or even HTML on the page. Block code is to add code like from someone else, like do or do not. There is no try. And then these other tags, which are used for format B, that stands for bold or strong. I mean, those do the same thing. And I for italic, or EM, it's also for italic. And we can start adding some of these just to show you how they look. Like I'm going to add a P, which is a paragraph, and another paragraph below. Good afternoon. And now that I saved it, what you can see is these are displayed into different lines. Why? Well, because these are two different paragraphs, and one would expect two paragraphs to be separate by a line break. If I didn't use P to separate this, if I just left a space like this, they would appear without a line break. Even though there is a line break in my code, it's not interpreted as a line break, because what the browser does, it just reads text and it can't read a line break here. I can add it by typing this other tag, BR, which adds a line break, and this is what the browser interprets as a line break. As you can see. Okay, now I'm gonna start talking about CSS a bit, because it's gonna be CSS intensive. How do we style a website? That's what CSS is for. CSS is the language for describing the presentation of web pages, including colors, layout, fonts, and more. It also adapts to adapt the presentation to different types of devices, such as large screens, small screens, or printers. This is a spoiler because I'm going to talk about this later. I'm not sure we're going to have time to go through this, but this is something really important for responsiveness, which means adapting your website to different widths and devices. CSS can be included in an HTML page by either using the style tags or by importing external CSS files using the link tag. So CSS, I can include CSS. It must be included in the head, like this. And within this style tag, I can start writing CSS. I could also include a CSS file by using a link tag. And this would point to a CSS file in my computer, or maybe somewhere else on also on the internet, like I did for this one, which is an image. I could also add a link to a CSS file somewhere on the web. And I would also use a style sheet rel. And something important I want you to know: CSS is looked down upon by many developers. Many developers, especially front-end, well, mostly back-end developers, but also front-end developers will say CSS is not really a language. It's not that important to learn it, but it's actually super powerful and it's really important. And I know myself, because I'm not a huge fan of CSS, but that's only because I have bad taste. I'm really bad at designing websites. I think, thank God, there are people that do it better than me, and I leave it to them. But still, it's super powerful. I'm going to show you a few things you can do with only CSS. There's this website that I really love. It's amazing. It's called a.singledip this is by a woman. She's been doing this for many years now. She's Lynn Fisher. It may not make sense to you, but all of this thank you. Thanks. So, like I was saying, what this page is in this project, Lynn Fisher, she uses a single div, a div tag, to draw these things, and all she does is use CSS. All of this is plain CSS, all of them in a single div. No code, no JavaScript, no nothing, just CSS. It's insane. And some of these, like this one, or like this BB8 here that moves, this is amazing. I really recommend you go through it. And also, if you're curious, I can open one of these, the source code for one of these, and show you. It's just a div. That's it. One single tag, one single div, with a lot of CSS right below. By the way, I haven't shown you this, but this is the developer tools of the browser. And this is where you can inspect a website. It's pretty much like doing the right click and inspecting the source code. But this is even better because you can play around and change things and maybe make things bigger and mess with everything. Because you can play live with the web that you're visiting. So yeah, CSS, you can do magic with CSS. So don't ever look down upon it. Now that's a very important concept of CSS, and maybe the most important concept to understand is how layouts work, and that's the box model. So you have to think of all elements, of all HTML elements. You have to think of them as boxes. And the CSS box model is like essentially a box that wraps around every HTML element. And these boxes consist of a content, which could be text. In the case of, like, if I add in this paragraph, the content is hello world. Then there can be padding, a border, and some margin. I'm going to show you now the different parts of these, and I'm going to do that by writing some CSS. So I'm going to write it directly in this paragraph. I'm going to say padding is 10 pixels. Usually, pixels is one of several different units you can use for CSS. It's the most standard one. I don't want to go into all of the different kinds there are, because there are many and they are kind of hard to understand. Let's stick to pixels for the moment. And obviously, pixel stands for pixel, which is 10% of an inch, I think, or something like that. Let's also add a border. I'm going to show you the syntax for it. So for now, you will have to believe me. I'm going to show you the syntax for this later. And I'm going to add also a margin of 20 pixels. And I'm going to add these as different paragraphs so you can see the difference. I'm going to copy the style. Save. And oops. And I'm going to reload. And so you can see the padding is what it creates some space within the content and the border. So if I removed it, I'm going to use the dev tools to do it live. You can see I'm going to remove the padding from this one. So you will see the content sticks to the border. That looks kind of ugly. And the margin is what separates elements from each other. So after the border, there's the margin. And this margin is what separates one paragraph from the other. And you can see in the developer tools, it's pretty awesome that you can get to see with this different coloring what the margin is, what the padding is, and what the content is. I think I use the same colors. Well, not really. Not really. And also you can see the values here in the web developer tools that you open by clicking on right-click inspect, and this opens the developer tools. So you can see the margin, it's 20 pixels, padding nothing because I removed it. There's 1 pixel border. And well, that's the box model, and web browsers render every element as rectangular box according to the CSS box model. And also this is something a bit complex, so let's just read it and believe it. Box sizing, it can be either content box or border box. Content box is the default, we're not going to touch it. It means the size of the box is calculated by the content, and border box is the content plus the padding plus the border. That's how you would calculate the width and height of it. Now, speaking of border, I said I was going to show you how to define a border. So border property is a shorthand for border width, then border style, and border color. Here I used 1 pixel for the width, solid for the style, and the color, which I used, is black. These are the different border styles that you can use. There are a few more of these. I just showcased some of them. The double border, dash, dotted, bridge, which is kind of like 3D protruding, and then inset is like 3D but going inside. It's kind of weird, but this is quite easy.
Silvia?
Yes.
One quick question. Why use PX and not REM or EM?
Well, that's I'd say that's a choice. I'm more used to pixels than EM or REM. I don't really think there's any reason against one or the other. I think it's more of a preference. I'm gonna stick with pixels for the masterclass, and I didn't want to go into the different kinds of units that are, but I mean, go ahead and Google it.
Yeah, also Marta is agreeing that it's a preference. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so still again with box model, something else that we can add is the border radius, which is it's basically used to add rounded corners to elements. A radius specifies the radius of a quarter circle or ellipse that forms the corners of an element's outer edge, which is kind of gibberish. Let's just say border radius allows us to add rounded corners to the elements, like in this case. And here's an example of what you can achieve with border radius. You can define border radius separately for each edge of a box. So you can define for the left, top right, bottom left, and then depending on which values you use on both left and right or top and bottom, you can make it more round, as in a ball, or kind of like lemony thing. I don't know how to call this. So this is some of the things you can achieve with border radius. Shadow. What's the box shadow property? It attaches one or more shadows to an element, and this is some of the things you can achieve with box shadow. It's again with like with border. This is the syntax. You can specify whether you want it inset or not. Inset would be this case where the border is applied inside instead of outside, which is maybe a bit weird. I don't think that's highly used. Then you specify an offset on the X coordinate and an offset on the Y coordinate. So if it's positive, you would go below and to the right for X and Y. In this case, it's 10 pixels, X and Y, and a color, which is orange. You can also specify a blur radius, which adds it, like in this case, you can see it's more straight orange, and in this, there's a blurring of the pink. That's the blur radius. And the spread radius means it takes more space, as in it spreads the shadow. And this is a case where we've used spread radius. It's minus 10 pixels on the X, 0 on Y, 5 pixel blur radius, and 5 pixel spread radius. And cool thing is you can add as many borders as you want. You just have to separate them by comma. You would write border equals, and then add these with separated with commas, and each border adds up, which is quite cool. Now we're gonna start typing CSS, so let's learn how CSS works. You can define CSS in several different ways. I'm gonna cover these. There are other ways, which is by attributes, but I think it's gonna be a bit too complex for today. So let's stick to this. By tag or element type, which is like tip or button or P for paragraph, or any tag that you can think of. Then by ID, which is for every HTML element, I can add an ID to refer to it. I could say this is my hello world P. It's a very long name, but and this ID then I could use for styling just that paragraph and saying this paragraph is now gonna have I don't know, background color pink. I'm gonna save it and reload, and there it is. Yeah, sorry. And by class name, which is in this case, you start by typing a dot and the name of the class, and you define the set of CSS rules. As you can see, also CSS rules are words separated by dash, like background color, border radius, and you always, and this is super important, have to end a rule with a semicolon. This is super important, otherwise HTML breaks and it cannot interpret those CSS rules. So what are CSS classes? HTML class attribute is used to specify a class for an HTML element. And the cool thing about it is that as opposed to ID, because the ID needs to be unique for every element in the page, I cannot go and call the following paragraph with the same ID because it's already used and it has to be unique for each element. So if I wanted to style those two paragraphs with the same styling, I could use a class. I could also use, of course, a P, and this would apply to any paragraph in the page. But let's say I'm going to use a class. I would call it my pink P. And I'm going to add this rule, remove this. And now I can provide this class to both paragraphs, pink P. Pink P. And now they both have the pink color. And the cool thing about it is I can also add more classes. I could add blue P, which, I mean, that would be overriding pink P, but if it was using the same background color. But I can keep adding classes and their styles would merge. This is an example of how to use them. Pseudo classes, this may be a bit too much also, but these are used to define special state of an element. For example, it can be used for styling an element when we hover over it with the mouse, or style an element when it gets focused. I'm going to show you, for example, let's say we want these paragraphs to change the background color when we move the mouse above them or on top of them. I'm going to change the background color to crimson. By the way, you cannot type just any color name you wish here. There's a list I'm going to show you next. I'm going to now show you when I put the mouse on top of these paragraphs, they change the color. This is thanks to this pseudo class. Now, speaking of font family, it specifies the font for an element, and it can hold several font names as a fallback system. If the browser does not support the first font, it tries the next font, and so on. Usually, if you were including a font that, because fonts are installed in our computer, so if you say, let's imagine, I would go and say paragraphs would now use font family, I don't know, Calibri, which I know is a Microsoft font. A Mac computer doesn't have Calibri installed, as far as I know. So I would go ahead and try to render this, and I would see nothing changed, because I don't have this font installed in my computer. So usually what we do in web pages is we add the font to the web page. I can show you, for example, in All Women, the font it uses is called, I'm going to show you with this. This font family is called Rubik, and it is included in the HTML so that you could see it anywhere, regardless of which computer you are using or smartphone you are using, because the font is downloaded so that it can be used in the web page. And it should be somewhere around here. I'm going to look for it there. So I'm going to copy these two, because this is where the font is defined and included in the web page. I'm going to put it there in the head. So now if I say all paragraphs are going to use font family Rubik, I should be able to see the different font. Awesome. Now for colors. A color can be defined in any of the following ways. Using a keyword, which is the easy way. And this is, of course, there's a list of which colors you can use, and which colors you cannot use. This is the full list of color names, of available color names. There are many colors, of course. Still probably not enough, but a lot. So you can use these, and you always have to write them lowercase, blue, salmon, or even transparent, which is, of course, no color at all. You can also use this RGB cubic coordinate system using the hash. I mean, the hexadecimal, which is more understandable for everyone, and you may have seen this before. So, sorry, you use this this system, which is using a hash and then specifying 2 digits for red, blue, and green. The same as writing RGB and then providing the values, which range from 0 to 255 for red, green, blue. In this case, RGB 25500 would be full red. If I was to add in some blue to the red, then I would get purple. And well, you know the math, you probably did it in school. And then finally, there's this HSL cylindrical coordinate system. Honestly, I've never used it, but so you know it exists, I have it there. Also, if you were thinking about creating your own website, like I said before, I have super bad taste. I don't know which color matches what. So these are amazing tools that you can use. They give you different color combinations that they know are supposed to match and look good with each other. So, sorry. I can keep clicking on, I think there's a generate button somewhere. or maybe reloading, and it will give me a different color combination every time. Some of them are pretty cool. It's not changing now. There, generate, sorry, that's the button. So these, you could get color ideas from here if you don't know what goes nice with what. Color Hunt is a different page that you could use. It does the same. Now for adding images, we use the IMG tag, and we can also use a CSS rule to provide a background image to another element. I'm going to show you, for example, these images right here in the all women page. These are not using the IMG tag. These are using the background image. But we can still try and copy them and put them in our page somehow. I'm going to have to look for them. There it is. That's the image. It's probably too small for you to see, but I'm going to add it here in an image tag. I use the attribute SRC, which stands for source. And this is the path to the image. And I will also add a title. All women. I don't know. And this will probably render huge. Yeah. And this means I should give it a width and height because it's too big right now. So I would also give it an ID, all women image, and I write a rule and say, I don't know, 300 pixel. Playing by ear. That's okay. Good enough. Also, it's also important if you're adding images to use the alt attribute, because this is going to be read by screen readers for people that use screen readers. So people who can't see the image at least would get an idea of what is it supposed to be in this image. Well, I'm getting too ahead of myself with CSS rules. Let's try and add more content because we are far from looking like all women page. So I'm going to start copying, like this is, I think this is an image. I'm going to add it too. Let's add it to the top. The top, we'll use the header tag, because that's what's on the top of our page. And I'm going to add an image. It's this logo, which is probably also huge. And I'm going to englobe or wrap this content in a main tag, because this is where the content of the page will be. And I'm going to try and put the I was wondering why my page looked so huge, but of course I zoomed in. So I'm going to try and put this navigation on the header and leave the rest of it on the main. And maybe, I guess this could be a footer here. This could be the footer. I don't think we're going to get there, but let's create it anyway. Let's see how this looks. Huge. Let's make this smaller, like, I don't know. 120 pixels, 140 pixels. Yeah, maybe that. So I'm gonna give it an ID as well. All women logo. Okay, with maybe, I don't know, 180. That looks too small. Let's reload, and there it is. Okay, already you can see this is getting very messy with all these styles thrown in here. This is This is kind of dirty. So why don't we go ahead and create a CSS file? That's super simple. I'm gonna just create it there. I'm gonna call it styles.css. Of course, the extension is important. That means it's a CSS file. I'm gonna copy all of this there. And now if I delete that, I delete them from here, of course, I'm gonna lose all styling. If I reload now, well, there's still these style tags that apply CSS rules directly on an element, but let's remove them. So you have, I want to bring my styles back. Sorry, I have to include them using this link tag, which points to my style CSS file. There, fixed. And of course, my paragraphs look terrible now, but we are working on this. Are there any more questions so far? Am I going too fast?
For now in the chat, we're answering some minor questions, but
Okay,
it looks like everything is clear.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you, Marta, for answering most of them, and thank you, Silvia, for this amazing masterclass.
Okay, next I'm gonna add this text here, which I'd say this is really big. I would say this looks like a header. I'm gonna use an H1 for this, and it's important to know there should only be one H1 in a web page. As opposed to H2, H3, 4, 5, 6, you can use as many as you want, but you should use them correctly, of course. But H1, there should only be one in the page because it's usually used for the title. So I'm gonna put this there, and already I'm gonna put this inside a section. Because I want to distinguish the different sections. Like for me, I would say this is one section, this blue background with two images on the side, and then this could be another section, and this below would be another different section. So let's already create different sections for them, and let's add a header here. Let's say this section, I'm gonna call it, I'm gonna use a class this time. I'm gonna call it section 1. I'll put this here. Remember, I'm using a dot in this case. And I'm gonna say the background color is, it's a shade of blue. I'm not sure. I'm gonna use my color tool, which is a browser extension, to pick the color of the page. And there it is. This is hexadecimal notation. So it's hash 4160 FB. And that's the blue. If I reload now, okay, we're getting there. It's not really the same, but we're getting there. There's something else about this section. Sorry, it has white color, and it should also be using the Rubik font. So actually, I'm gonna go ahead and say, you know what? Every element in the page should use the same font family. So I'm going to use the body tag. Now, going back to CSS, the word cascading style sheets, it means styles cascade down, you can imagine. So if I apply a style on the very top of an element in the page, in this case, body is the root. If I apply any style to the body, it cascades down to all elements inside it, nested in it. So if I went ahead and changed the font family for paragraph, it would have precedence because it's more important because it's its own style. So I could change for the paragraph, give it a different font family. But if I set a font family in the body, I don't have to change any other because they would all take the font family from the body because it cascades down. So now when I reload, all elements are using Rubik font. I'm gonna go ahead and say The color in section 1 is white. Reload again. Okay. What else? You can see I'm gonna write this also below the header. I'm gonna use a paragraph for this one. And then we would have to have the images on the right. I'm gonna show you how to do this. I'm gonna skip transition and transform, although these are really cool. These are used for CSS animations. There's no time for that. Let's go into Flexbox, which is the single most important thing to happen to CSS in the past 6-8 years. I'm not sure. Flexbox makes it easier to design flexible, responsive layout structure without using float or positioning. These were CSS rules that we used to use in the past for positioning stuff on a web page. As in, I want an image to be on the right, or I want it to be on the top, or I want it to be floating within blocks of text. And with Flexbox, everything becomes way simpler. Sorry, an element becomes a flex container by setting the display property to flex. Display is one of the many CSS rules an element can have. Actually, I can show you another trick. When you start for this, display, this is the list of options that I can use for display. There's one that's none. It means do not display. This is funny. It means it's there in the HTML, but the browser won't display it. It's hidden. You may be wondering, what's the use of that? Well, it has some use, because some styles, some elements you may be hiding until something happens, and then by using JavaScript, you would change the style, the display rule, to display or not display, depending on something that happens. Also, I can tell you already, this thing that the header does, where at some point the navigation menu disappears and it turns into this hamburger on the right top corner. This is also accomplished thanks to using display, like hide or show, depending on some rule. And in this case, the rule is the width of the page. Okay, so we were talking about flex. Let me go back to flex. Direct child elements of flex container automatically become flexible items. And flex, to be honest, I love it. It's amazing, but I still struggle to understand how to use it. So I always use this page, which is amazing, the complete guide to Flexbox. Actually, I think if you type Flexbox in Google, this is going to be the first search result that you get, probably. And this is an amazing guide to understand how to use it and how to position elements on a page. So what I can do with this is I can, like in the all women page, I can have some text on the left, but then on the right have two images, one on top of the other. So let's try and do that using Flex. So I'm gonna, first of all, because I'm gonna need to wrap the text in a different element, a div. And then I'm gonna use Flex on section 1. I'm gonna say this is display flex, and then by default, display flex will have elements be spread in a row. But in this case, you can see this as one big element, one box that contains text, header, and a paragraph. And this would be a different block that contains two images. And these two are positioned in a row, but these two are positioned in a column, one on top of the other. So I will have to use also flex container for these two. This will be row, which is default. It's the flex direction property. I can write it, but by default, it's row. And then I would create another, I'm going to take this image and put it there. And I'm going to create another container for these two images. I'm going to use class 2. I'm going to say this is the all women images. Sorry, images. And I would have to, for the moment, I'm going to copy them. And I'm going to go ahead and create another rule for this and say it's display flex direction, flex direction. This is column. And this will have these two images be on top, one on top of each other. And let me check back. So section 1 is flex. This is also flex. Let's see how it looks. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. Pity we're almost out of time, but we're getting there. What else could we do next? Of course, it's not really like the all women page. There's a lot of space around. Well, there's something else we can do for it, which is add a lot of padding. Let's add padding to this one, to this div. We call this, also use a class, and we call it section 1. I don't know. Let's call it, yeah, section 1 header or section 1 text. I'm super bad with coming up with names. And this is something that you have to take seriously, by the way. I mean, the naming is super important because it needs to be easily understandable by anyone that picks the code and says, of course, this is that. I mean, it should be a no-brainer. So don't use me as an example, please. I'm gonna go ahead and say, I don't know, 50 pixel padding. Then again, you have to think padding is defined by 4 properties, which is top padding, right padding, bottom padding, left padding. You have to think it's like clockwise, starting from the top, from 12 o'clock. So the first one, if I only specify 1, it says 50 padding for all of them, top, right, bottom, and left. If I provide 2, let's say 50 and 20, then it's like saying I'm specifying 50 for top and bottom and 20 for left and right. If I want to go ahead and specify all of them, then it's this would be 50 for the top, 20 for the right, 30 for the bottom, and I don't know, 50 for the left again. This is super random. I just made it up. Okay, kind of not really like the actual thing. Of course, the font is way bigger, but it's also because I have zoom. Let's put some zoom in here. Not bad. Should I go on, or because we're running out of time?
I think we should start wrapping up, but
Yeah.
if you want to share the code of the final work that you've already done, we can share it on our GitHub without any problem.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I just wanted to say when I talked before about responsive design, is it's the approach used to create content that adjusts smoothly to various screen sizes. This nowadays is super important when designing web pages. Nowadays, it's usually approached from mobile first, which means we first design for mobile because 70% of any web traffic is mobile first, and then the remaining 30 is computer. And this is going to shift even more. It's going to be way above, I mean, way bigger, maybe 80, at some point, maybe 90, because we use mobiles more and more. So we have to make web look amazing on mobile, because if it doesn't, we lose customers, we lose visitors. And I think that was pretty much it. Well, media queries is the technique that we use to achieve responsiveness. I'm not going to go into this. And finally, I just wanted to say, I've been doing this all manually, and as you can see, we've taken an hour or so, and we achieved little. But of course, we were starting from scratch. You can use CSS frameworks, which they provide a basic structure for designing consistent solutions, and they provide generic functionality, which you can you can use to start designing a web page, and you don't have to do all of this by scratch. They will give you a basic structure and some pre-made CSS rules that you can apply to make your web page look amazing, and you don't have to work so hard. And there's no shame in using frameworks, and there's also no shame in using ready-made customizable HTML templates. If you are building a website, let's say for your resume or a portfolio, you can just go ahead to Theme Forest, and they have like $9, $10, $50, of course, more than that, but there are many different prices for already made HTML templates where all you have to do is just fill in the gaps with your text, and they look amazing. And there's no shame in that. I mean, if you want to get an awesome web page and save the time of coding it, you can also use this. And yeah, and also you can use website builders like Wix or Elementor, which is specific for WordPress, which they provide you with a drag and drop editor where you just have headers, blocks of text. You just click on them, drag them, and then they create the web page for you. And it's super visual. You don't have to know code. It's also good, and there's no shame in using those. And yeah, and that was it. I'm sorry I didn't have time to cover all of it or get any close to all women page, but we tried.
It looks great, Silvia. Thank you very much for this extensive session and for letting us know step by step what you were doing. It has been a great journey that you've taken us to. Perfect. So just like as a final note, since everybody has been asking the questions on the side chat, I'm understanding that there's none left. But if you do, please don't hesitate to write them now. And in the meantime, perfect. I'm gonna, for the people that want to stay and want more information about how to have Silvia and Marta and our teachers as their own teachers in web development course, let me give you a small introduction. And if you have to leave or so, don't worry, because this session is going to be recorded. Plus, also, the material is going to be shared in our GitHub if you want to go over it and play with it, because that's what's all about, losing fear to code and also seeing what you're capable of. So let me show you the information about the courses. And thank you very much to everyone. Perfect. So, all right. So how to become a web developer with all women with us. This course is for any sort of women that wants to get into this field. As I remind you, this is a tech academy exclusively for women to bridge the gap that there's currently in tech. That's one of our main mottos. So we have career changers. We have people that they want to switch completely to tech. There's career boosters, people that have experience in other fields. And what they want to do is to apply a tech layer to become more employable, to get new skills, etc. And also we have some entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, which is always amazing to see in our community. So we're looking more for an attitude than a specific background, because we start from scratch. We start from zero. So you don't need any previous coding knowledge, any STEM background, no need for that. We're all about that anybody can join our courses and complete them, and then get out in the professional world and be successful. So that's our main goal. Here you have some, for the ones who already know a little bit and they want to know more about the concepts and technologies that are going to be covered. Here you have a little taste of it and a little bit of the technologies. Perfect. And also this is, this is for backend. So you also have a little bit of an idea of what we're going to be handling during the courses. So there's front end and back end, which makes you become a full stack developer. And we're all about 100% hands-on attitude. So you're going to have 2 guided projects. that our teachers, our female tech experts are going to help you to go through it and review it. And then you have a final open project that you're going to also always have the support of the teachers, but it's going to be completely open for you. So you're going to have a kick-ass portfolio to look for a job in tech, to showcase to your employer, etc. And let's put some faces to the names. Thank you very much again for some of the teachers being here and answering the questions and helping us make the most of this session, especially Silvia and Marta for being here. And also, so you have an idea about the career development, the journey in all women. So if you're interested, then reach out to us, reach out to the admissions team. It's either I'm going to let you my email, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Ines. I'm also going to let you her email as well. And there's a tech assessment for you to complete because we want to gauge a little bit your curiosity level and also some of your abilities, your intuition and your interest in the field. Once you successfully complete the tech assessment, there's some pre-work to do because we want to make sure that everybody has the same level and starts confident with certain aspects, certain material. And then the class starts, the course starts. And once you graduate and you present the final project, that's when we celebrate the demo day. But the journey doesn't end here. There's also a lot of career development program to help you find a job, to land a job in tech. So we have an elevator pitch, we have individual mentoring and portfolio review, and the hiring fair, where we invite different companies, and there's different interviews between companies and the students and the graduates. And yeah, the goal is that there's a lot of networking and opportunities arising from that. And some last practical information about the upcoming courses. The web development part-time, it's coming really soon on February 8th, but you still have time to do everything, the technical assessment, and to join. It's gonna be our first edition, so we're really excited. And you're gonna be working with all the teachers that I showed you before, and with Silvia, we just saw the quality of her teachings. And then there's also the full-time option as well for people that they really want to deep dive into web development and they want to kickstart their career in this field. Then that would be the best option for them, of course. And we have an upcoming edition in April. Great. And with this I finished with my email. All right, and I'm gonna double check if there was any other questions. Thank you very much for all of you who are staying. That's amazing to see still 31 people here connected. That's amazing. This means that the session went well. So here you have my email and also Ines. We're both available for questions in terms on how to enroll, and also visit our website to check the syllabus, the pricing. Everything is very transparent and openly displayed over there. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna double check if there was any questions. There was a lot of thank you, so thank you also for being here. Okay, are there any scholarships for stack web developers? So at the moment, we don't have any scholarships. They're going to be upcoming this year, but we're still awaiting on some fundings. But something really exciting is that we have a big discount this month. So if you're also interested in knowing more about it, it's called Boost 2021. So if you're interested in it, ask us about it, and we can let you know about all the conditions. And it's for web development courses and also data science ones. Great. Any other questions? Will the teachers be the same for the full-time module? We still don't know that yet, but it might be. It might be that we can have some of the same teachers. But don't worry, we're going to be publishing it on our website as soon as we know it. But we always make sure to work with female tech leaders that they're currently in the field and have extensive experience. So this is something that we obviously are super interested in working with. Perfect. And what about people who are not complete beginners, but only want to build more knowledge? Then I would say join us. Like, it's gonna be then a refreshment, because the idea behind the course is to build everything, all the concepts from beginners. But if you want more, if you're curious, the teachers will give you materials, readings, things to do in the meantime. Is there anything that maybe I'm missing, or Marta or Silvia, that you want to add to this question? No, as you know, wonderful. Are you planning data science webinar in the close future? Actually, yes, we already held one this morning, but there's another session for tomorrow, Anna. And since I think if you want to email me with your email to keep things private, then I'll add you in the Google Calendar event so you can join it. It's tomorrow at 6:30. And we're going to be exploring hits of Spotify of 2020. Wonderful. Mireya, hi, what would you say they are the main differences between these courses and the ones in schools such as I Don't Hack, apart of being women and by women, which is already pretty important? All right, so what we've decided to build with our own courses, obviously the idea is that you become a full stack developer, so you have front end, back end, and also it's a curriculum that is designed also that it brings you a lot of current technologies that are being used, so it stays current to the trends, because all these teachers that I'm mentioning they're still working in companies where they're like using these technologies every day, so they know they stay up to date with the latest trends. And also another thing is that we also wanted to bring a focus on communication within teams, which is something really important, and something that we saw that not a lot of courses had. It's the communication part and how to interact very well with other teams. Wonderful. And I think that's pretty much it. Lovely. So thanks very much again for staying with us and being this evening with us today. And again, if there's anything else that you wanted to ask us, don't hesitate to do so by email. All right. Wonderful. So I think that this is going to be it. I'm going to leave Silvia to take a deep breath, because sometimes I was thinking, like, is she even breathing? Or poor thing, she's going to end up with a really dry mouth.
I forgot to drink. I had filled my bottle and I forgot to drink water. I'm thirsty now.
All right, so you should get a well-deserved break. And again, we're gonna be publishing this on our YouTube and giving you access to the code, so you can play with it. And if you had any fear on coding, I hope that now it feels less daunting and intimidating, because that's the whole idea behind it. Wonderful. Thanks so much, everybody, and goodbye.